Welcome to the fourth installment of The Open Ground. Today's exploration, Forging Meaning in the Abyss, Faith, Chaos, and the Eternal Struggle with Evil. Evil is the prime mover. Throughout the annals of metaphysical and theological thought, the concept of a prime mover has occupied a central role in explaining the origins of motion, change, and causality in the universe. Traditionally, this force has been understood as either an inherently good entity or principle, a being or concept that represents order, reason, or divine will. Whether in Aristotle's formulation of the unmoved mover or in the theological interpretations of an omnipotent God, this prime mover has consistently been associated with the forces that bring about the world's harmonious functioning. Yet, this traditional alignment of the prime mover with good or order belies a deeper, more unsettling truth. What if, instead of good or order, it is chaos that governs the movements of the cosmos, a force indifferent to human notions of morality, intent only on disruption, dismantling, and the constantly turning wheel of transformation? More provocatively still, what if evil, in its human manifestation, is the direct reflection of chaos, an intentional, conscious enforcement of disruption within the moral and social realms? In this reframing, evil ceases to be a mere reaction to good and becomes a central, active principle within human existence. I will argue that chaos, not order, is the fundamental mover of the universe. It is chaos that dismantles stasis, bringing forth the unpredictability, conflict, and transformation inherent to existence. Chaos, however, operates on a cosmic scale, free of moral judgments. It is neutral, yet its effects can range from the destructive to the generative. Within the realm of human consciousness, evil emerges as the mirror of chaos, a distinctly human force that enforces ideas of harm, suffering, and destruction. While chaos disrupts without intent, evil is imbued with malice, a moral force that seeks to impose disorder consciously within the human sphere. To propose evil as the prime mover is to position it not merely as the antagonist of good, but as the force that initiates human action, decision, and moral struggle. Evil, unlike chaos, operates within the confines of human responsibility. It is the force that tests the boundaries of moral structures, the shadow against which meaning and purpose must constantly be measured. If chaos is the cosmic prime mover, then evil is its human counterpart, drawing human beings into the thick of existential struggle. In this framework, faith, as God, becomes the guiding principle that allows individuals to resist both the chaotic nature of the universe and the evil that manifests within the human mind and body. Faith, as God, is not a static belief, but rather a dynamic, lived process, a way through which human beings perpetually realign themselves against the forces of disorder. Faith, as God, then, is the medium of resistance, the path through which meaning, responsibility, and moral clarity emerge in the face of overwhelming disruption. In this essay, we will explore the implications of chaos and evil as the dual forces of disruption, one cosmic, one human, and how these forces challenge our understanding of existence, responsibility, and the search for meaning. By framing chaos as the driver of universal movement and evil as the human enforcer of moral disorder, we will reveal how faith, as God, stands as the only viable response to the existential challenge posed by these twin forces. Faith, as God, in this context, is the perpetual act of balancing, adapting, and resisting the pull of chaos and evil, forging a path of meaning through the forever shifting landscape of existence. Before humanity's moral frameworks ever came into being, chaos ruled the cosmos. It is in chaos that the universe finds its true mover, a force beyond good or evil, neither benevolent nor malevolent, but indifferent. Chaos is the natural state of the universe, a constant dance of creation, destruction, and transformation, utterly free of moral consequence. It is the force that dismantles structure and order, only to give birth to new forms, and in this eternal flux the universe thrives, evolves, and expands. Chaos, in this sense, is not simply disorder or randomness. It is the engine that drives movement, from the cosmic scale of galaxies forming and collapsing to the natural cycles of birth and death that define life on Earth. Stasis, the opposite of chaos, is synonymous with death and entropy. It is the cessation of motion. Chaos, therefore, becomes the prime force that defies entropy, ensuring that nothing remains still for too long. In its essence, chaos is the process by which the universe sustains itself through continuous change, destruction, and rebirth. It is the foundation of dynamism, not simply in the cosmos, but in all things, forcing the breakdown of form and function, which in turn leads to new beginnings. However, chaos is amoral. It operates without intention or purpose beyond its inherent nature, to disrupt, disassemble, and create anew. In this cosmic arena, there is no good or evil. The stars are born in chaos and die in chaos, but these events are neither tragic nor glorious. They simply are, part of a grand mechanism that underpins existence. What human beings interpret as destruction, loss, or disorder, chaos views as a return to its neutral state of flux. It is from this perspective that chaos assumes its position as the true prime mover, the first principle of movement and disruption in the universe, unburdened by morality. Where does this leave humanity, with its constant striving for meaning, order, and purpose? Humans, being part of this cosmos, are not exempt from chaos's touch. In fact, they are inherently chaotic beings, subject to the same forces that govern the rest of the universe. But humanity, with its capacity for thought, reflection, and creation, attempts to impose meaning upon the chaos, to resist it, harness it, or at the very least, understand it. It is in this tension between the cosmic indifference of chaos and the human need for meaning that we encounter the role of evil. While chaos operates on a universal level, affecting galaxies and ecosystems without any moral intent, evil is the force that manifests within the human sphere, mirroring chaos but with deliberate intent. Where chaos is indifferent to its consequences, evil is deliberate in its enforcement of destruction, pain, and suffering. In this sense, evil becomes a human interpretation and reflection of chaos, weaponized through conscious action, intention, and choice. Chaos, in its cosmic scale, sets the groundwork for existence, but it is within humanity's interaction with chaos that evil takes root. Human beings, in their attempt to control or resist chaos, often succumb to its disruptive tendencies by projecting their own malice and destructive desires into the world. Thus, while chaos governs the stars, evil governs human hearts, forcing us to confront the darker side of existence, where chaos is no longer neutral, but personal and intentional. In understanding chaos as the fundamental cosmic force, we come to realize that the universe is not driven by harmony or order, but by the continuous breakdown and recreation of forms. It is in this universal turbulence that life and meaning emerge, and it is from this same chaos that humanity must constantly seek to resist, adapt, or reconcile with its own moral struggles. In this framework, evil does not act upon humanity from some external source. It is born from within. It is not a foreign invader, but an outgrowth of the human condition, emerging from the depths of the mind where desires, fears, and ego collide. Where chaos is impersonal, evil is personal, taking root in the choices that individuals make. Choices that seek not only to navigate chaos, but to bend it towards selfish ends. This distinction becomes crucial in understanding the moral stakes of human existence. If chaos governs the stars and the shifting of the Earth's plates, Evil governs human intention, transforming the natural disruptions of chaos into morally charged acts of cruelty, oppression, and destruction. Chaos causes hurricanes, but it is evil that turns the aftermath into exploitation and suffering. Chaos can tear down empires with time and natural decay, but evil accelerates their fall through greed, corruption, and war. Thus, evil, as the human expression of chaos, presents the most profound moral challenge. It is a force that tests the limits of human responsibility, driving individuals to confront not only the chaotic forces of the universe, but their own capacity for harm. Faith, as God, becomes the means by which humans resist this force, a way of realigning the mind and body to counteract the moral disruptions caused by evil. In this sense, faith, as God, is not just a belief system, but a dynamic process, a practice of perpetual resistance against the malice that seeks to weaponize chaos. Where chaos sets the universe in motion, evil sets human beings against one another, against nature, and ultimately against themselves. It is only through faith, as God, that this spiral can be interrupted, allowing humanity to reclaim a sense of purpose, meaning, and alignment within the chaos of existence. Faith, as God, becomes the way, the only path through which humans can balance the disruption caused by both chaos and evil, restoring a sense of equilibrium in a world constantly at odds with itself. The creation of meaning through interaction with chaos and evil. Meaning is not inherent in the fabric of the universe. It is something created through human interaction with the forces that shape existence. In a cosmos governed by chaos and a human experience often marked by evil, meaning does not emerge naturally. Rather, it is through the constant engagement with these forces, through the resistance and realignment afforded by faith, as God, that meaning becomes possible, even necessary. Humanity's relationship with chaos and evil is not one of passive observation, but of active confrontation. Chaos, with its cosmic indifference, and evil, with its conscious malice, are forces that challenge human beings to respond, to act, and to make sense of their experiences. It is in this ongoing struggle, this continuous engagement with disorder and destruction, that individuals are forced to seek meaning. The very presence of chaos and evil demands that humans create something beyond the destruction, a sense of purpose, a moral framework, and ultimately, a deeper understanding of existence itself. Faith, as God, then, is the primary mechanism through which humans navigate this existential challenge. By constantly realigning in response to chaos and evil, faith, as God, allows individuals to create meaning in the face of forces that seem intent on destroying it. In this sense, faith, as God, is not just a way of resisting chaos and evil, but a way of making meaning out of chaos and evil. It is through faith, as God, that the human mind and body find coherence amidst the inherent disorder of existence, transforming the forces of destruction into opportunities for growth, reflection, and moral clarity. Meaning does not exist apart from chaos and evil. It is born from the interaction with these forces. The struggle against chaos, the confrontation with evil, these are the crucibles in which meaning is forged. Without these challenges, without the disruptions caused by chaos and the moral dilemmas introduced by evil, there would be no impetus for individuals to seek purpose, to define values, or to pursue a sense of higher truth. Chaos and evil, far from being mere obstacles, are the necessary elements that drive the creation of meaning. They are the conditions that make meaning possible because they compel human beings to rise above mere survival and engage with the deeper questions of existence. In this framework, faith, as God, is not merely a retreat from the world, but an active engagement with it. Faith, as God here, requires that individuals confront the chaotic nature of the universe and the evil that emerges within the human realm, and in doing so create a sense of purpose and direction. Through faith, as God, humans transform their experiences with chaos and evil into narratives of meaning, shaping their actions and their understanding of the world around them. The act of meaning making is therefore deeply tied to the human capacity for faith, as God. It is through this capacity that individuals are able to see beyond the immediate disruptions caused by chaos and evil and find a higher purpose in their struggles. Meaning is not something that exists in spite of chaos and evil. It is something that exists because of them. It is through faith, as God, that human beings are able to turn the forces of destruction into forces of creation, crafting a life that is rich with purpose and significance, even in the face of disorder. Ultimately, meaning emerges as the product of resistance, the resistance against the pull of chaos and the malice of evil. It is only through the continuous, active realignment provided by faith, as God, that individuals can find a path through the disorder, forging a life of meaning and purpose in a universe that offers neither. In this way, faith, as God, becomes the bridge between chaos, evil, and the human search for meaning, a perpetual process of confronting, resisting, and transcending the forces that shape existence. Philosophical case studies: chaos, evil, and the search for meaning. Throughout history, philosophers, writers, and historical figures have grappled with the confrontation between chaos, evil, and the search for meaning. In these case studies, we find illustrations of how faith, as God, becomes the path through which individuals transform existential despair into purposeful action. 1. Camus and the absurd. Albert Camus, in his exploration of the absurd, posits that the universe is fundamentally indifferent to human life, a notion that aligns closely with our concept of chaos. In his work, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus presents the image of a man condemned to eternally push a boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll down each time. This symbolizes the endless confrontation with a chaotic, indifferent universe. However, Camus insists that meaning can still be forged in the struggle itself. The act of resistance, the refusal to succumb to despair, is where meaning is created. Here, we see a reflection of faith, as God, the refusal to yield to chaos, and the active creation of meaning through perseverance. 2. Nietzsche and eternal recurrence. Friedrich Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence also offers a profound meditation on meaning in the face of chaos and evil. If one were to live the same life with all its suffering and triumphs, an infinite number of times, could one still find meaning in existence? For Nietzsche, the answer lies in the affirmation of life, an act that requires a kind of faith, not in an external deity, but in the eternal value of existence itself. This mirrors faith, as God, in our framework, where meaning is not given but must be actively affirmed through struggle. 3. Dostoevsky's exploration of faith and evil. In Fyodor Dostoevsky's The Brothers Karamazov, the character of Ivan Karamazov presents a compelling confrontation with evil. Ivan rejects the idea of a benevolent God in the face of human suffering, particularly the suffering of innocent children. His rebellion against this evil leads him to existential despair. However, through the faith of his brother, Alyosha, we see a contrasting response, one where faith is not blind to evil, but rather confronts it with compassion, humility, and an active search for meaning. This illustrates how faith, as God, becomes a force that counters evil, transforming suffering into an opportunity for moral action. Exploring different types of faith, as God. Faith, as we have framed it, is not monolithic. It manifests in various forms, each offering a different pathway for resisting chaos and evil and creating meaning. Here are a few critical dimensions of faith that could be explored further. 1. Faith in oneself. A fundamental form of faith is the belief in one's own capacity to navigate the challenges of chaos and evil. This form of faith is deeply connected to the idea of personal responsibility, where individuals trust in their ability to make morally sound decisions in the face of existential trials. This is a faith in one's internal strength and resilience. The belief that despite the overwhelming forces of disorder, one can remain anchored in their values and purpose. 2. Faith in humanity. Faith in humanity, or collective faith, speaks to the belief that despite the presence of evil and the chaos that surrounds us, human beings possess the capacity for goodness, progress, and redemption. This form of faith is relational, dependent on the bonds between individuals and the shared commitment to overcome evil through solidarity and mutual support. It suggests that meaning is not merely an individual pursuit but a collective one, built on trust in the potential for communal action. 3. Faith in a higher purpose. While this form of faith is often associated with religious belief, it can be understood more broadly as faith in a transcendent purpose or higher moral calling. In this context, faith, as God here, becomes the belief that human existence, while chaotic and often filled with suffering, has a larger significance, whether spiritual, ethical, or existential. This is the faith that aligns one's actions with something greater than oneself, providing a framework for moral clarity in the face of evil. The role of community in meaning-making. While faith, as God, is often experienced personally, it also operates within a broader collective context. Throughout history, communities have gathered around shared values, beliefs, and goals to create meaning amidst chaos and evil. 1. Historical movements and collective faith. Consider the civil rights movements, where communities of oppressed individuals came together, not only in resistance to the evil of systemic oppression, but also with a shared faith in the possibility of justice and equality. These movements reveal how meaning is forged in the collective struggle against chaos and evil, illustrating the importance of shared faith in overcoming immense societal disruption. 2. Religious and philosophical communities. Throughout history, religious and philosophical communities have often been at the forefront of meaning-making amidst chaos. Whether through rituals, shared texts, or communal action, these groups offer individuals a sense of belonging and a framework through which to interpret their experiences. Faith, as God, becomes not just an individual practice, but a shared commitment to a set of values that binds people together in the face of chaos and evil. 3. Modern examples of collective meaning. In the contemporary world, we see communities built around environmental action, social justice, and humanitarian efforts. These groups often form in response to chaotic global crises, such as climate change, or moral evils, such as injustice or inequality. Through collective action, they demonstrate how faith, as God, in shared goals can lead to the creation of meaning and purpose on a broader scale. Contrasting with nihilism, faith as resistance. In contrast to the framework we've constructed, nihilism denies the existence of inherent meaning, purpose, or value in the universe. According to the nihilist perspective, the chaos of the universe and the existence of evil are proof that life is meaningless, that no overarching truth or moral framework can be trusted to guide human action. However, this philosophy represents a stark contrast to the view of faith, as God, where nihilism sees chaos and evil as definitive proof of meaninglessness. Faith, as God, sees these forces as the very conditions that compel the creation of meaning. Rather than succumbing to despair in the face of chaos, faith, as God here, confronts it, actively choosing to forge purpose in the very act of resistance. In this way, faith, as God, can be seen as the ultimate response to nihilism. It refuses to accept the universe's indifference as a justification for inaction or moral decay. Instead, it views the chaos of existence as a challenge, one that must be met with perseverance, moral courage, and a commitment to the continuous creation of meaning. Faith, as God, transforms the chaotic and often cruel nature of the world into the raw material for growth, reflection, and ethical action. Faith, as God, as the perpetual mechanism of meaning. As we have established, chaos and evil are not passive forces in the universe. They are active disruptors, constantly challenging individuals to resist, adapt, and grow. In response, faith, as God, serves not as a final resolution to these forces, but as a perpetual mechanism, one that continuously guides individuals in their confrontation with chaos and evil. This process is not static but dynamic, an ongoing journey where meaning is not a single discovery but a continuous act of creation. The nature of chaos is such that it perpetually disrupts the fabric of existence. It destabilizes order, introduces unpredictability, and forces everything into motion. Likewise, evil, humanity's response to this disruption, manifests through malice, inflicting suffering and moral decay. Together, these forces ensure that existence is never settled, never fully in balance. Meaning, therefore, cannot be a one-time achievement. It must be continuously forged through faith, as God, in the face of ever-present disruption. Faith, as God, becomes the tool through which individuals recalibrate their lives. It allows for the constant realignment of the mind and body, ensuring that despite the chaos and evil that permeate existence, one remains anchored in purpose and clarity. Each confrontation with chaos or evil forces an individual to reaffirm their faith, to adjust their understanding of the world, and to recreate meaning in new ways. This perpetual recalibration is not a sign of weakness, but of resilience. It reflects the understanding that meaning, like life itself, is fluid and must be adapted to the changing conditions of the universe. In this sense, faith, as God, is a practice rather than a conclusion. It is the conscious choice to engage with chaos and evil, not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities for growth and deeper understanding. Each time an individual confronts chaos or evil, they are faced with the choice to succumb to despair or to rise above it through the practice of faith. Meaning emerges in this very act of resistance, the refusal to allow chaos or evil to dictate the terms of existence. Moreover, this process of perpetual realignment mirrors the crucial equilibrium, where individuals must constantly balance the forces of order and disorder within their lives. Faith, as God, is the means by which this balance is maintained. It allows individuals to navigate the chaos of the universe and the evil of human malice while still holding on to a sense of direction, purpose, and moral clarity. It is through this perpetual balancing act that life becomes meaningful, not in the absence of chaos or evil, but because of the active engagement with them. The unyielding tension of chaos, evil, and meaning. In confronting the intertwined forces of chaos and evil, we have not merely sought to define these terms, but to engage with their far-reaching philosophical implications. The problem of evil stands at the heart of human experience. How do we reconcile the existence of conscious malice with the pursuit of moral order? Chaos, indifferent and all-encompassing, further complicates this by denying the universe any inherent structure or purpose. Faced with this vast and uncaring cosmos, we encounter the problem of meaning. If the universe is unstructured, how do we, as structured beings, impose purpose upon it? Faith, as we have explored, becomes the mechanism by which individuals perpetually realign themselves in a world marked by disorder. But does this act of realignment offer true resolution to the challenges posed by chaos and evil? Or does it merely offer a temporary balance, destined to be disrupted by the next wave of uncertainty? Is meaning truly created in this cycle of realignment, or is it simply a fleeting illusion, an ephemeral shelter from the fundamental disorder of existence? Moreover, the problem of faith raises its own unsettling questions. How can faith sustain itself when it is forever entangled with the forces of chaos and evil? Can faith be more than an act of resistance, or is its primary function to stand in defiance of the forces that seek to undo meaning? Can we genuinely live by faith, knowing that meaning must be continuously forged and reforged in an unpredictable world? This tension extends further to the problem of free will. If chaos dictates the larger movements of the cosmos and evil reflects deliberate intent within humanity, how free are we in our decisions to resist these forces? To what extent is our moral agency shaped by the necessity to respond to external disruptions, rather than from an internal place of true autonomy? And can the crucial equilibrium, both key concept and relational constant within perpetualism, the delicate balance between chaos and order, ever be fully achieved, or is it an endless process of adjustment that keeps us constantly on the edge of meaning? Finally, we must confront the problem of nihilism, which looms as an ever-present challenge. Nihilism tempts us with the conclusion that no meaning can be sustained in such a universe, that all efforts to create purpose are ultimately futile. Does faith offer a substantive answer to this, or is it merely a temporary antidote to a deeper, more pervasive existential void? Is the continuous act of creating meaning through faith a defiance of nihilism, or does it merely postpone the inevitable realization that meaning itself may be beyond our reach? And so, as we reflect on these philosophical challenges, I ask you, have we found resolution or merely opened a door to deeper inquiry? Can the cycle of chaos, evil, and faith truly resolve the tension, or must we accept that the pursuit of meaning is an eternal struggle, a struggle that defines the very essence of our existence? Perhaps the meaning we seek is not a final destination, but a perpetual act of creation, a refusal to succumb to the forces that threaten to undo us. In the end, this piece leaves us not with definitive answers, but with a challenge. Where will your faith lead you in this unending confrontation with chaos and evil? Will you find meaning in the creation, or is it the process of struggle itself that holds the ultimate truth? The journey continues, but the question remains, is it the search or the answers that we are truly after? I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please consider dropping a like and subscribing.